family, just coming to you all today to do a brief tutorial on preparing for our Passover dinner, our Seder dinner that we usually do together as a church. Remember that this is our annual communion together, just in preparation and remembrance of the Passover dinner that Jesus held with the disciples. So today I'm going to just talk about the Charoset, which is the mud-like, clay-like substance that they use in building the Egyptian buildings for Pharaoh. The Charoset comes from the Hebrew word chares. This is a sweet texture or a sweet taste that we use. It is referred to as a mortar when we go through the script for the Seder dinner. The Charoset is used in conjunction with the bitter herbs and also to make the halal sandwich for the Seder dinner. There are many variations to the Charoset. Some people use just apples, some people use apples and pears, and there are different ingredients that you can use. The recipe that I'm going to use today is the basic recipe that I've always used for the Seder dinner when we prepared it in the past. So today I'm going to have 2 apples. You can use different types of apples. Some recipes call for Gala apples, some call for Fuji, some call for Macintosh, and some just say just a regular red apple. So it's up to you which one you want to use and the size. But I'm going to use, it's kind of medium-sized apples that I'm going to use today. We have some honey. It's about half a cup of honey, or I'm sorry, not half a cup. It's about a 1/4 cup of honey. And then we have a cup of our wine. You need a sweet kosher wine, and today I use the Manischewitz because this is what we usually use when we do our Seder dinner for communion, so I just use that to prepare this as well. And then I have about a half a cup of walnuts crushed, and then I also have cinnamon. Again, there are different variations to this. If you're allergic to any of these items, then feel free to pull them out. So for example, in the past I've had to use nutmeg instead of cinnamon because we've had members that are allergic to cinnamon. I've also prepared just a smaller portion in the past for those members who have nut allergies. So instead of walnuts, I just pull that out and then I make it a little more pasty with how I chop the apples. So this can be done in several different ways. Substitutions can be made. If you don't want honey, you can use brown sugar. You can use brown sugar and honey. So there are different things that you can do, and there are several recipes that you can look up. Just Google it and you'll see all of the different variations that you can do. But again, this is just the basic one that I usually do for our Seder dinner. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. The first thing that you need to do is take your apples and begin to chop those. Now, sometimes people use a food processor to complete this portion, and if you choose to, that's fine, but the food processor might give it more of a pasty, more of a pureed if you do it too much. So if you're gonna use the food processor, just kind of be careful with it. So when you're chopping your apples, you want to do thin pieces, like small pieces. If you do them too thick, then your Charoset is going to be chunky. And that, I mean, if you prefer it to be chunky, then you can, but I like mine to be a little thinner. So that way it's easier to kind of put in your halal sandwich as well. As you can see, those are kind of smaller bites. So that's about the size that you want. Just dice them a little fine. And again, if you want them thicker, then you can. But I always found that it works best if they are smaller pieces that you're working with. With using the 2 larger apples, or medium-sized apples rather, you are probably making enough for about 4 or 5 people. And when I say 4 or 5 people, that's for them to make their halal sandwich and for you to be able to have a little bit with your actual dinner. If you have a preference on if you have the skin on your apple, I know some people don't like their apples to have the skin on it, you are welcome to remove the skin. However, I found that leaving the skin, of course, leaves a lot of the nutrients in, but it also adds a little more color to the Charoset. Once you, I mean, as many of you know, the apples are probably going to turn brown. And it has like a brown color sitting in the sweet wine as well. But having the skin in there kind of adds a little more of a colorful tint to it. So it's up to you if you want to leave the skin on. All right, so now we are going to take our dice the apples and put them in the bowl. As you can see, this makes the 2 apples look at how much it made. Originally I said that this could be enough for 4 people to kind of do the Hillel sandwich and to be able to have a little bit after, which is true. It depends on how much you like it. But I know that Agape has always been a fan of the Charoset after our Seder meal. So 2 apples, again, will suffice for 4 to 5 people, depending on how large your family is. If it's just you or just 2 people, then 1 apple might just be fine. All right, so in mixing it up, again, these are all of the items that you will need. There are different variations to this recipe. By all means, make sure that you look it up on Google to find one that works for you. So I have my 1/2 cup of walnuts here. I tried to, even though they said that they were chopped in the bag, I tried to kind of make them smaller just by squeezing them and breaking them apart in my hand. So you will take that and put it in the bowl. You take your cinnamon. A lot of this is to your taste, so even though I did a tablespoon of cinnamon, I'm gonna hold off on putting all of it in there because you may not need that much. My honey. That was 1/4 of a cup. I'm gonna hold off a little bit on that as well. And then I have in here a cup of the Manischewitz, but we definitely will not need a cup. So I'm gonna start by just pouring maybe 1/2 cup in there. All right, so now that you have everything in there, you just wanna mix it up. Again, if you had made the apples larger, this would look a little different. Even if you had made them a little smaller and done them in the food processor, it would have been a little different. So that's completely up to you on how small you wanted them to be. But as you can see here, this is perfect as far as size because again, you'll be able to take a little bit, put it on your Hillel sandwich and be fine. So you definitely want to make sure that you have enough in there. To make it more of a stickier texture or thicker texture, then of course you can add more of your honey. And if you taste it and you want more cinnamon, you can add more cinnamon as well. And I can look at this and tell that I want a little more cinnamon. So I'm going to add the rest of my cinnamon in. And I'm also going to add the rest of my honey in to give it more of that sticky texture. Again, you do not have to use honey. You do not have to use cinnamon. You can use a variation of the nutmeg. You can also use brown sugar. So it's completely up to you. So now, just gonna try it to see how it came out. Really good, Agape. Thank you all for watching, and I hope that you all are able to do the Charoset now and that you're thinking about what you want to do in preparation for our Seder meal on Thursday. I am excited. I wish that we could be together as usual, but I think that this is still going to be awesome with us being able to do it virtually. Again, keep in mind all the things that I said, how you can alter this recipe to make it your own. But keep in mind that there are certain things that you can and cannot use. For example, you can't use sugar, so you can't sweeten it with sugar. The only thing that you can kind of have that's sweetening it is that honey. You can use the Manischewitz or any other kosher wine, just a regular red wine, or you can just use the kosher grape juice as well, the Concord grape juice that they sell in the kosher section of the grocery store. So any of those things you can keep in mind, especially if you're going to have kids eating it. You may want to use some of the grape juice instead of using the kosher wine. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I love you all. I miss you. Have a good day.